Hi, everyone. I am Deandra Ross Batiste um, from Grenada, Isle of Spice. And today's session I will be presenting on building a teaching ministry. And that's part one of the entire session. Let me thank you for joining wherever you are. And we look forward to an interactive session as much as possible because I believe I'm not only the presenter here, but I'm also a learner. So we're going to engage a little bit after I make my main points in the presentation. So welcome. Let me share my screen. All right. Building a teaching ministry, part one, setting up onboarding. Somebody may ask, what is a teaching ministry? And as I reflected on what a teaching ministry is, I considered Matthew 28:16 to 20. It's a familiar passage where Jesus tells the disciples to go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Before I get into my small definition of teaching ministry, I just want to highlight the fact that Jesus is the master teacher. And so in his ministry, it was a ministry about qualification, experience, and of course, planning because he needed to know who his people or audience were, the people he will engage with, the feedback, and how he will share his level of knowledge and teaching to his audience. And so I have here a teaching ministry is a process. It requires experience, planning, qualification, and most importantly, it is holistic. What do I mean by holistic? Teaching ministry is not just about putting out your knowledge or what you have learned, giving it back to your students or your audience. It's really about connecting your mind, body, and spirit. Your spirituality in teaching ministry is very important. I mean, that's why it's a ministry. And so you have to put yourself in it all, as well as to allow those who you are teaching to experience it all as well. Okay? Um, I often let my students know that if I am the art teacher, art is not separated from English or math. They're all integrated into each other. And that's what really holistic really means. Everything coming together as you present your ministry and as you grow and build people in your ministry. So, I want to get back on track to part one of it. How do we plan for building a ministry? I really pull up this strategic planning diagram from one of my course readings at the University of the West Indies. And I thought this is very effective, not just for one particular area, but even in ministry in the life of the church. First of all, you have goals and objectives. Then you have your audience. Then you go to your messages, you look at your resources and activities, and you go right up to monitoring and evaluating what has happened so far as you have been planning for this ministry. And you go back to tie it in with your goals and objectives. Now, I'm not going to present this entire plan to you because we are focusing on setting up onboarding. So we're really going to zero in on audience in building a teaching ministry. I'm just going to highlight a bit of goals and objectives because I think this is, quite frankly, very important just as the audience. When you're setting goals, just to run through it quickly, I have learned, and I'm sure many of you have, that our goals must be SMART. SMART as an acronym, SMART. Specific, S, state exactly what you want to accomplish. What is your ministry about? Who is your will be a part of your ministry? Where will your ministry be set up? Why do you want to establish this ministry? Measurable. M. How will you demonstrate and evaluate the extent to which the goal has been met? You want to make sure that whatever goal you put in place is not far-fetched, it's not unrealistic, but that whatever you consider your resources, your activities, and your environment, whatever may become a part of your ministry, you have to consider that in order to make your goal measurable. Achievable. Stretch and challenging goals will within ability to achieve outcome. You want to start a teaching ministry, you want to start a Sunday school, but you've never taught before, right? You've never had experience in having to deal with children. So when you look at your goal, perhaps one of your goals before you actually get down into ministry is to be trained in order to teach. And that's fine. It's really at the achievable stage an action oriented verb. I'm going to take on a year's training so that I can facilitate a Sunday school ministry, right? Relevant. How does the goal tie into your key responsibilities? How is it aligned to your objectives? Um, do you want to have a goal that is timely, something that is not timely, sorry, but something that is will be meeting perhaps a need? There is a need for a Sunday school in your church, or it might be inside of the Sunday school, there's a need for a children's musical band. The relevance of it, you know, and centering your goal around that. Then you have time bound. Set one or more targets date. Whenever you set a goal, it's important to put a timeline to it. Include deadlines, dates, frequencies. All of these things are important. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to stick too long on this, but I thought it necessary to share. And so I have an example of a goal. So if I'm doing creating an advocacy plan, the goal of this advocacy plan is to influence the Ministry of Education to employ literacy specialists in all primary and secondary school through the implementation of a national literacy policy, which will allow all children and youth to have access to and supported by greater literacy provisions by September 1st, 2023. Now, I'm just going to pause here so that you can, it's a lot within a goal, but it's a smart goal because I'm being specific. What do I want to achieve? I want to influence the Ministry of Education to do something, right? And it's an advocacy plan. So I really want to influence them to get something done. And how am I going to do it? I'm going to look at how they can implement national literacy policy, right? And having literacy specialists in the school. And so that could be one of the a goal. And then I have at the end, just to run through quickly again, time bound, September 1st, 2023. So we're working with a time frame. All right, so moving on to audience. This is our main area for today. Onboarding is the process of introducing new personnel to an organization. It's a process when you think about onboarding. And I have students or the individuals engaged in learning. I separated the two deliberately. The reason for that is that onboarding takes on a path of who are you going to get into your ministry to help support you in this ministry, to build not to build your ministry so much, but to organize the ministry. Who's going to work with you, right? And in working, in getting people on board to work with you, you have to realize that it's a process. They are not going to see your dream or your idea easily. You have to get them onto it by doing certain things, by having, like I said, the goals, objectives, right? You need to give people a sense of direction. You can't just talk it out. You might have to have a map if it comes down to that, right? So onboarding is a process. You have to sometimes interview people. You have to get them to see, are you really the right person for this? And if so, they may not be the right person, but are you passionate about this particular ministry that you can support it as long as it can? So that's part of the process of onboarding. And then you have students who are the individuals engaged in learning. A bit of onboarding, you're looking at your students, individuals who you're going to really teach, who's going to be involved, who's going to be participants within your ministry. Now, as much as it is, we talk about audience, we have to be a bit more specific. Target audience, the specific people you want to reach with your ministry. When we say specific people, I'm not only talking about students here again, I'm talking about the people who will support you in your ministry, who will work along with you. And I want to go back again to Jesus's teaching ministry. And when Jesus called his disciples, I reflected on that and I thought about, look at it. Quite a few fishermen became his disciples. He had a tax collector too. Could it be that these people were very resourceful? Fishermen are. They work hard. They have patience, right? I have been in a position of fishing. I love to fish. I'm not sure how many of you love to go fishing, but I love to go fishing. There's a level of reflection, patience, everything that comes into play when you're out there fishing. Level of peace. And I think that it was so unique when Jesus called the disciples, because you're thinking, why fishermen? Again, the Bible uses it again to say, you got to fish for people. And who better can do it than fishermen? So when you're looking for people, audience within for your ministry, you have to also think, you have to get a bit more specific. Who are these people who are going to support me? You might want to look at the geographic area too, in your community. Who in the community can help build this ministry with me, can join in this ministry? Who are the persons I'm trying to reach? I'm going to be teaching in this ministry. Is it the group of young men on the block? Is it a group of children who are not in the Sunday school, but I can get them within another group in my ministry, a Bible group session or whatever it might be? You might have your church community, as I spoke again with the Sunday school. You might have lapsed members you might want to target your ministry for. Or you might be regional, just as this particular platform is. And then you have demographic segmentation. We're looking at age. Am I going to target young people? Am I going to target seniors? Am I going to target children? Religion. Let's not limit ourselves. I've been to a vacation Bible school as a child, and it's only when I got into secondary school I realized, hey, I know you, I know you, I know you. And when where I got to know them before was because they went to vacation Bible school, but they weren't Methodists. Many of them were Roman Catholics. And so it doesn't really, don't limit your ministry to say it's only for the Methodist Church. You never know who you might reach outside of the church, right? You have gender. Is it focused on males or females? What about interests? Some persons have interests in music, natural talent, or they just would like to learn about in a music ministry, teaching ministry, Bible, interests. Some people may have a particular interest in the Bible. It doesn't have to be the entire Bible. I have heard persons say they're New Testament, right? Person. So you have all of those things to play around with when you're thinking about your audience. You don't want to just go big, bam, and have a ministry set up for any and everybody, because it can get chaotic in that sense. So you want to tailor it to a specific group of people when you think about your support group and when you think about your audience, your students, participants. As we move on, I want to focus too on the messages. Messages are important when you're going to reach people. Messages are important for your onboarding. You want to be able to, just as they were doing in products and services, sell your product, right? So I have a little message here. Calling all youth ages 11 to 16 to praise and purpose. No audition, no experience needed. We are here to support each other, express our creativity, and build musical talent for the glory of God. So my message here is centered around purpose and praise and purpose, musical talent, right? And I am calling for a particular age group, as I said, target audience, 11 to 16. And I'm saying really and truly a little bit about what my ministry would be about. We're supporting each other, being able to express ourselves freely, our creativity, giving persons such opportunity to just explore whatever they desire in the name of God, and building musical talent at the same time. So you look at how you can reach persons with your message. And we're going to see how the message is going to be useful again as I go on. When you're looking at onboarding, we are at the stage of advanced technology, and it's in the palm, literally in the palm of our hands. So the role of ICT in onboarding is critical. We have the traditional media, local news, advertisements, church events, letters of invitation, organizational contacts, post flyers, application forms. And then you have modern social media, where you reach perhaps more people. And when I say more people, I'm talking about within your specific group. And you're able to, let's say, be more creative. So you have websites, Facebook, WhatsApp, Google, etc. Again, information and communication technology is very important when you're onboarding, because it allows you to give details of your ministry, and it allows you to publicize your ministry to a specific group of people, or your target audience. I want to share now in onboarding a particular area that you can focus on, a registration form. I have itemized the way you can go about creating an online registration form for your ministry. So I'm just going to step away from the PowerPoint for a bit, and I'm going to go on to the Google Doc itself. So we're going to explore a bit of that. All right. I'm hoping everybody can see at this point. So right now, I'm showing you the Google Doc when you want to create a registration form. And I think that's one of the fastest way of having to get persons on board. When you can set up a registration form, you can give a bit of information about your ministry, and you can get feedback too from persons as to their interest in the ministry while signing up for it. So you click on the blank. Actually, this is actually the wrong one I was looking for. Let me just stop here. I'll have to come out again. Give me a minute, please. Let me go back. It's loading. All right, just bear with me a minute. All right, so I got it. So let me get back to my sharing my screen. All right, so I'm onto the form right now. And at the very top here where I highlighted, I can name my form. Just gonna say Bible study group form. Just keeping it simple. And right here, I can give a description of the form, what it's about, and what the Bible study is about. You may even want to copy the message that I had from the message that you create, your main message about your ministry, and put it in the form as well. Now you go down and you have your questions. What questions you want to ask? Your name, persons give their name, their contact information, their interest in Bible study, and you can continue to create questions right here where it has that plus sign here, add questions to create another question, etc. Right? Now I want to show you into settings area. You can go on to responses and collect email addresses. So you can highlight this, just put this on so that you can collect email addresses one time. And you can also ask for respondents to get their confirmation of being registered. Now, when you're about to share your form, you click on the send, and you can, if you don't want to just use Google alone to share your form, you can just go onto this particular area here, highlight the link, copy the link, and you can share it whether on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Twitter, whatever other means you want to share it in. So that's one possible way of getting persons on board for your ministry. Okay, you use the use of registration forms within the Google Doc. Now, another way, as I go back to the PowerPoint presentation, and again, there's no one or two set ways. I'm just giving you simple examples in the interest of time and in this presentation. Creating a poster, very effective, just the same. And with creating a poster, you can actually take the same registration link from your registration form in Google and place it on your poster. So if your poster is not a digital one, and you may want to put it up in the church or in your work environment or wherever you are in your community, then you can just take the link and put it onto the poster. And as you make copies of your poster, persons, it's available for where they can register. All right. So you make that easier to get persons on board. So you have other ways of creating posters. You have Microsoft Word, you have online poster creation, you have phone app. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing again the PowerPoint presentation to go on to one of the online posters I usually use for creating posters. It's free up to a certain point. You know, when these things are free, you're limited in certain respects, but it's still quite useful. So I'm just going to share that with you now. Meanwhile, you can think about some of the, if I ask you, some of the other poster apps and so on that you use to create posters and flyers of information, right? So I'm onto Canva right now. Canva allows you to create a lot of posters for different events. And so you have from business to education to simple, you starting from scratch, start designing a poster. If I click on that, if I continue with Google, usually you're required to sign up to get onto these applications and so. Right, so here I am. And I'm just going to type in ministry. Right. So I see one says, join the women's ministry. I'm going to put that here. Yeah. It's, let me just zoom in a bit. So this is already created by the program. Join the women's ministry. Come and move mountains with the Lord Almighty. So again, you have a bit of a message here. Not extensive as I did, but it's something that is capturing, you want to capture a certain group of persons. Again, look at it, the target audience, women basically, because it's a women's ministry. All right. So that's just another example of how you can get persons on board in your ministry. Going back to the PowerPoint presentation. What I mean by phone app, I'm looking at going into Play Store for your Android system, or for your iPhone, you might want to go to iStore. And there are plenty of poster apps and other forms of applications that can create these flyers and so forth, presenting your ministry. Other useful ICT resources, YouTube and Google. The reason why I put up these two is to let you know that sometimes you're not sure on how to go about, let's say, creating a poster. You can go onto YouTube and you can type in how to create a poster for a ministry, a church ministry, and you get some of the ideas. Google the same thing. So don't just limit yourself and say, well, I don't know. There's so many ICT resources that are useful for actually being creative and for you to really plan and develop your ministry and getting persons on board in your ministry. So I'm back to this to the start strategic planning for building a ministry. We looked at the goals, SMART goals. Of course, SMART also is reflected in your objectives as well. Your audience, your message. We actually did do a bit of resource and activities in terms of poster creation and so on, and Google Forms. And so I'm at the end of the presentation, and I would like to leave you with a quote from Jacqueline Hazley. Use your ministry to build people, not people to build your ministry. So thank you. And at this point, I'm going to ask if there are any questions, comments. Feel free. Any questions, any comments from anybody on what I presented? Anything that needs clarity? Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Ronnie, for sharing your comment. She said she really likes the tools I provided, and there are many, many more. I just try to keep it as simple as possible because and make it and use the ones that we're probably accustomed with, in particular with Google Forms and so. So thanks for that. Any questions on onboarding? Anybody has anything on any idea about building a ministry in their church or in their community? All right, so if there's nobody else, let me thank you for allowing me to be a part of this session. And God spare our lives. We will see each other again. I am on tomorrow as well, part 2. And I'm going on to Friday with part 3. So I really hope everybody enjoyed this session and would find it useful. I do have the PowerPoint session slides available if anybody would like to have them. Thank you. Mm-hmm.